It is a huge, huge honor to be interviewing my longtime buddy, Kerry Straine. My God, it seems like yesterday you were in my front room watching my boys. I think they must have been 1, 2, 3, and 4.
I remember the wagon at the airport when you picked me up and you had all four boys in it. That was an amazing experience.
That green wagon, that was the biggest wagon I could find. Put 4 boys in there. But man, I've loved you for so long. Let me read your bio just in case there's some kid living under a rock in Asia that's never heard of you. Kerry Straine, Certified Professional Behavioral and Values Analyst, holds a Bachelor of Science in Business Administration with a concentration in accounting and has been in business and financial management for more than 30 years. See, I've only been in it 28 years. I'm much younger than Kerry. Much younger. I could be his kid. It was Kerry's education and experience in accounting that led to the development of the Straine Management System, the premier platform that provides strategic planning, leadership, and team development, policy and management system design, training, monitoring, coaching for dental professionals throughout the United States and Canada. Sorry, I'm breathing hard. I just did an 8-mile run, and I walked through my front door. Literally, Ryan had you on the screen when I walked in the door. Kerry's contribution to the dental industry earned him the award for Best Practice Management Consultant in the nation in 2012. Congratulations on that, Kerry.
Thank you very much.
The mission of Straine, and by the way, you've never told me what strain of bacteria you are. Are you Streptococcus mutans causing decay or P. gingivalis causing gum disease? Which one are you, Kerry?
That's under lock and key.
that's right next to Colonel Sanders' secret recipe.
The Coca-Cola recipe.
The mission of Straine is to advance the understanding, practice, and development of leadership for the benefit of all professionals in the dental industry. As a certified professional behavioral and values analyst, Kerry understands that behavior and attitude can help or hinder the strategic process, and because of that knowledge, he is able to assist dental professionals gain a better understanding of the complexity of strategic leadership. Kerry says about personal strategic leadership effectiveness, thinking strategically, acting decisively, and in alignment with the practice strategy, and influencing others' commitment to short and long-range objectives is the essence of effective leadership. The Straine Management System provides the essential systems and processes that can improve the strategic functioning of a dental team. Kerry has also contributed to the dental industry with innovations such as the Straine Practice Analysis, a window into the day-to-day operations of a dental practice that illuminates the effectiveness or ineffectiveness of existing strategies and systems. As an administrative reformer, Kerry recognizes the significance of each dentist's unique clinical vision and standard of care, but says that without a well-defined philosophy and sound management system, the business will fail to deliver on its own promise and stand the test of time. Kerry, I want to open up with, these, I've already had over 500,000 views on these podcasts, and they're just being devoured. In fact, I got several emails over the weekend that over the holidays they were binge listening to them. One kid told me he was listening to 12 a day. So I just want to set the stage for you that the evidence I have, everybody that emails me about my podcast at howard@dentaltown.com, most of them are the first 5 years out of school.
Okay.
And where you and I have an advantage of being in this industry 3 decades, I want to ask you this. If your own kid, your own daughter, was walking out of dental school today, this is what she's going to say to you as dad, and I want you to affectionately, fondly tell your daughter the truth. She's going to say, Dad, you got out 30 years ago in the glory days of dentistry. I'm getting out with a Heartland Dental and Pacific Dental, big box dentistry on every corner. I got $350,000 of student loans. They're telling me I can't be a great dentist unless I double down with a $150,000 CERAC, a $75,000 BioLace, a $100,000 Carestream 3D X-ray machine. Dad, should I double down on my debt, or should I just go get a job for Heartland? Are the glory days behind us, or does dentistry still have a future as opening up my own private dental office? Now, that ain't a loaded question.
That is a loaded question. And again, I'm talking to my daughter, and I only have one. But that being said, $350,000 in debt, is that all? Because I'm talking to kids that are graduating from school that have a lot more than that. It's daunting to realize that they've got to make $90,000 to $100,000 on top of the income that they need to fund their lives annually just to fund the debt instrument that they're gonna be committed to pay off the student loans. But that being said, just a lot depends on what they want. I think that the corporate dental world is a great learning ground. Working for someone like you that's owned a practice for 28 years, working for anybody who's got demonstrates tremendous leadership, not only clinically but with building a great team. And if you're going to put yourself in a position where you've got a job for the next 1 to 2 to 3 years, you want to work with someone who's modeling the leadership and behavior for you to learn from. Those are valuable years that you need to continue to be a student and commit to becoming the leader that you can be. Leaving dental school with a $500,000 or $1 million loan where you bought a practice, or you're starting up from scratch with $500,000 or $600,000 just to open it up turnkey. Most of the students I meet aren't used to writing a check for more than $1,000 or $1,500, and that's rent. And then to be faced with $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 a month worth of labor, $6,000 for rent, $10,000 on the debt instrument being funded. When you look at what the net cash flow is available after operations, then to fund the interest or the debt service, then their taxes, what's left over to the bottom line, they need to have a clear perspective of. They need to determine just what it is that they need to live on. And if they can't make that model work through an acquisition or startup, then they're better to go to school on how to apply the dental lessons they've learned in school by working for a large group, as you say, Heartland or Pacific or one of the others. Or it doesn't have to be a big practice. It could be just a very successful baby boomer like you and me, who's got more patients than they can manage, who's thinking about bringing an associate on so that as they're in their 50s or 60s and they're not contemplating retirement, they're looking for an associate. And if that young dental graduate can find a doctor to work for that has a quality patient-based staff, facility, and economic model in place, and is going to commit the time to nurture them and mentor them, then I don't see that as a bad option for the dental graduate to consider as well.
I would consider it a postgraduate degree, just like a periodontist will go get a master's in science degree in perio. Kerry, the most bizarre email that I get the most from these dental students is they always come back and say, I'm going to go back to where I was born in Tulsa, Oklahoma, and there's 2 guys looking for a dentist, and one will pay me 35% and I pay half the lab bill. The other pay me 30% and I don't have to pay the lab bill. And I'm like, dude, I mean, that's not even what you should be looking for. What should this, between those 2 dental offices, he should be looking for what? He wants to go learn how a dentist is a leader. Tell him what type of job they should be looking for. And it's the same thing with the big boxes. Like there's 450 DSOs. We always say Heartland or Pacific or Aspen, but there's 450. What qualities should they be? What would be the most things you'd want to learn from this associate job for 2 or 3 years? What should they be looking for?
Well, they should be looking for an experience to learn that's more than just doing dentistry. If they had a checklist to go through to determine whether or not they should take that position, the first thing they want to look at is how productive is the practice and profitable is the practice. Because they're wasting their time if this doctor is going to bogart every case that comes in the door, the original dentist, and not provide this person with anything more than a 1 or 2 surface filling procedure. If there's not an abundance of patient flow, a committed team that loves their dentist, enough operatories, and a doctor who's, again, committed to mentoring that individual, I wouldn't go there. I've broken it down to what I call the 5 success strategies. Strategy number 1, there needs to be enough patients in the practice. The first 1,500 patients in the practice are going to be seen by the owner dentist. 1,500, maybe even 1,800. So every practice has a maximum patient-based capacity, Howard, and it's equal to how many people they can fit into their continuing care program, if they're general dentists or pediatric dentists. So look at that number. In our Straine survey, that's the first statistics we gather. How many patients of record do you have? And that we look at is how many patients have walked in the door in the last 2 years. Prior to that, and you're hunting for your high school girlfriend on Facebook, you're not going to find them. So if you look at the number of patients that have walked in that door in the last 2 years, that's your body count, number 1. Number 2, you want to ask this question. How many of them made it into hygiene in the last 6 months? And number 3, how many have a scheduled hygiene appointment? There's got to be enough sources of dental procedures for that associate to earn a living. Otherwise, Howard, 30% of zero is what?
Nothing.
Nothing. And that gets back to negotiating a base salary. These larger groups are telling, and I have clients that are large group practices. Over the next 2 weeks, I have 4 large MSOs, DSOs coming in to meet with me beginning tomorrow from all over the country for through now till the 16th of January here on the coast of California. Just planning out where we're going to be over the next 3 years, each one of them different. But these people have a plan to not only provide dentists with the opportunity to do dentistry, to be fairly compensated, and to train them on communication, leadership, teamwork. And that's not saying the individual dentist can't do that as well. But before you sign the agreement to go to work for someone, you want to make sure that, A, the patient flow litmus test has been analyzed. So back to the numbers. How many people have walked into practice at least one time in the last 2 years? What percentage of them made it into hygiene? Just that statistic alone, Howard, I've conducted over 22,000 practice analysis just looking at that statistic over the last 25 plus years. The percentage is 48 to 52% of the patients seen from my data in the last 2 years are participating in continuing care. Maybe that's all the doctor had room to see.
48 to 52?
48 to 52%. I've got the statistics to back it up. We conduct in our office 400 to 800 practice analysis complementary to doctors annually. And we want them to see exactly what's there. Now, the good thing about that, Howard, is if the practice has seen 2,500 patients in the last 2 years, and they've got 1,400 of them that made it into hygiene in the last 6 months, my God, there's an untapped potential if the owner doctor has a plan to sweep more of those patients into continuing care to feed the associate. And I think that can be done because we see it all day long with our clients. The third statistic is what percent of them are reappointing for their next hygiene appointment. We find that a high percentage of the continuing care patients are reappointing, but obviously not all 2,500 of them. And these numbers are well within the range of what we see to be the statistics of practices we're looking at. So that to me is the number one statistic an associate needs to find out about. I'd say that is an issue once they've negotiated their compensation plan.
So when you said you don't want the owner dentist bogarting the patients, my God, the last time I heard that word bogart, I was in college and someone said, "How we quit bogarting that joint?"
Exactly.
You said on that who has the highest success? Who should be rescheduling the hygiene appointment? Do you think the hygienist should be scheduling that back in the operatory because that puts the burden on her? You've been back there an hour, get her done, as opposed to the hygienist just walks up front and says, "Marianne, will check you out." Do you see any difference in strategies to get a higher percent?
I see practices doing it every different way. The key, though, is to make sure it gets done. So whether or not the assistants are reappointing the patients the doctor sees, or the hygienists are reappointing the patients they see, or administrators are reappointing the patients, at the end of the day, that doctor wants in their inbox, they want the following statistics. How many people did we see today, and how many of them left for their next continuing care appointment scheduled? Because if it's not scheduled, then we've got to go do some work, either electronically through our sweeping program and emailing them out. But the fact of the matter is we didn't underscore the importance of being in our continuing care program because we want to take care of you, for God's sakes. And, the dentist can talk about the oral systemic relationship, blah, 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 blah. I'm not a clinician, as you know, but I know that we've got to manage body count. And I know that my clients that have more and more patients are able to capitalize on that goodwill and the leverage because they're at an inflection point where they're going to have to make a decision. Where do I go next? Do I bring on that associate? Maybe. Maybe I don't have room. Maybe I don't want to. Maybe I don't trust anybody else. Maybe I've got so many patients I can move out of network. There's so many options when demand is far greater than supply, and I know you know what that means because you have your MBA.
Speaking of MBA, the American Dental Association has a PhD economist, and he wrote an article last year, 2015, that said it was called Dentists, Lawyers, and Lattes. And the data is very clear that after the 2008 meltdown, the only people who have not rebounded to 2008 numbers were dentists, lawyers, and lattes, Starbucks, coffee shops. So my next question to you is, Kerry, this dentist is out there in the middle of the Ohio, and he says, "Kerry, come on, dude, I've been doing this 15 years. I'm just flat. I'm flat. I can't. I'm not even back to 2008. I was doing 750 a year. Now I'm at like 700, and for basically a decade. It's almost a lost decade. Kerry, I'm sitting out there in the middle of Ohio. I'm doing 2008 numbers, and it's 2016. What could Kerry, Straine, at strain.com, straine.com. If I called you up, what can you do? Because I'm out here in a city, it ain't doing nothing. There's no new factories. There's no cranes in my city. It's just flat, Kerry. It's a decade of nothing, just flat. What would Straine tell this guy? What are his options?
The first thing, his options are to get on the phone and have a conversation with me. Just reach out and send me an email and say, Kerry, I want to sit down and talk to you about where we are.
Okay, then what's your phone and what's your email?
Kerry, Kerry, at Straine, straine.com, or call us at 800-568-7200. We're glad to schedule a 1-hour consultation with anybody, and during that 1-hour consultation,
and how much is a 1-hour consultation?
What's that?
How much is a 1-hour consultation?
Free.
Okay.
Free. Anybody who's listening to this podcast, it's free.
And so, what are you going to do in that 1 hour? And go over some case studies. I mean, what magic bullets are you finding for a flat doctor who's lost a decade of growth?
Well, first of all, is to figure out what he's got. So we have to collect a strain survey. I need to know how many patients have walked in the practice in the last 2 years. There's only 3 sources of production for a dentist: new patients, continuing care patients, and patients in the practice who are not in continuing care. Those are hard to find. So that's what I mentioned earlier when I said it's important that a dentist have a minimum of 2 full-time hygienists containing 1,200 to 1,500 patients of record. Howard, this is an interesting statistic. The first thing I would look at is what is that doctor's annual revenue per patient in continuing care? I don't know if you've ever looked at this number, but I have. When you look at 2015, let's say he did 700,000, and he's got 1 hygienist. He's probably got 700 patients in continuing care. So if you look at the annual revenue per patient in continuing care, it's about $1,000. That's not high today. When you look at exams, cleanings, fluoride, radiographs, a few of this, a little bit of that, that's nothing advanced. If you're lower than that, that's what we call a clue. There's something going on clinically that needs to be addressed as well. Maybe the production by ADA code report would say there's no perio being done. There's no scaling root lining. There's no perio.
You're talking about $1,000 a year just for what the hygienist is billing per patient per year, or for the whole office?
For the entire office's practices, the practice's revenue, $700,000, divided by the number of patients you saw in the last 12 months in continuing care. So with there, you've got to take the number of adult prophies divided by 2, assuming everybody came twice. Same thing with child prophies, and your perio maintenance is times 4. So determine your body count. I would want for the appointment a production by ADA code report for the last 12 months, and I would want a strain survey, which is going to tell me how many patients they've seen, how many have an appointment, how many operatories they've got, how many hygiene appointments a week, what did we produce, what did we collect last year, what was December production, and what was my accounts receivable balance. I'm looking at many different factors when I have a meeting with a client, and I'm looking at what they've accomplished. What they've accomplished is based on what they know. So what I often find, Howard, is that the average annual revenue per patient in continuing care is around $900 to $1,100 a year. My first strategy is, why don't we double the number of patients in continuing care? For God's sakes, you've got a 4th operatory, you're paying rent on it, you invested in it, for God's sakes. Why don't we start reappointing patients? And as we look forward 3-4 weeks in advance and we realize we're filling up the schedule, yet we're getting 20, 25 new patients a month, and if we're not, that's a clue. And we're reactivating and reappointing the patients the doctor's seeing that aren't in continuing care, we start to grow that number. If we can grow that number to 1,000 patients over the course of 2016, Howard, we're going to go to $1 million. We get it to 1,200, we're going to go to $1 million too. And I know that sounds simplistic, folks, but I've been doing this for over 25 years, and that's how I started. Once I get full, and my doctor can't keep up with either the exams or the dentistry, then we've got to look at financial options, in-network options, expansion options, technology options. But too often what's associated with a $700,000 a year practice in production is a $600,000 collection level, especially in Ohio. I have staff that live in Ohio. So we see that the in-network participation at that level of production is high. We're reacting instead of being proactive with our plan. And what's not happening at the 208 rate, Howard, is overhead. Overhead is happening at the 2016 rate. So the net cash flow, or what you might want to call profitability for the sole practitioner, is diminishing. And as this guy gets to be over the age of 50 and he doesn't have a lot of money saved for retirement, he's going to end up hating to go to work. And if he doesn't put a line in the sand and call today Amnesty Day and make a decision to move towards a new vision based on a new set of values with a new set of strategies driven by the passion within his mission, we're never going to get anywhere different than where we are today.
So, Kerry, I'm a detailed guy. I think most of my viewers, probably 90% of them, are commuting to work. That's why we did an hour, because the average guy has an hour commute to work, and the ones that only have half hour, they just listen to half and back. So they're driving in the car. They can remember in their mind Straine.com, Straine. But when you're talking about this survey, I know what my homies are thinking. Do I run those reports and FedEx them to you, or do you dial into my computer and I give you some password if I got Dentrix, EagleSoft, SoftDent, PracticeWorks, Open Dental? How do I get these numbers to you? And should I get these numbers to you before I talk to you so you can see what you're looking at?
Yeah, step one, Howard, would be to contact me, and either I will either, or one of my team members will send them an email where we'll have a strain survey and what we call a business discovery session questionnaire. We want to find out what they've got, what they want, what they like, what they're concerned about, and if they'd like to increase their profitability. So we get that back. Plus, we'll get a copy of the production by ADA code report. If they do not know how to run these numbers, my staff will dial in and they will access the software as they do with every client that we serve. And we have 400 active clients at any given time. So my team knows how to pull all this data out in the period of a couple of minutes. So the appointment in my schedule is populated with the data, and I prepare the night before and I'm ready for the call. So we can end up at that hour with an action plan. We can have an agreed upon set of goals. We can discuss strategies that they're willing to implement. And every one of my clients is different. There's no cookie cutter approach to consulting. It's like, is there a cookie cutter approach to treatment planning? No. Is there a cookie cutter approach to taking radiographs? Yes. You certainly collect records in a standard way, but every treatment plan is different. The same in consulting, or it should be. So we have to look at the economic component, the facility component, the team, the leadership, and the patient-based component. Once I have that information, I can sit down with that doctor and give them recommendations as if they were my daughter, as if they were one of my sons. And I want them to be successful without the risk of having to be baited to become a consulting client.
Terry, what I've always loved about you is you're so data-driven. I mean, you believe in gravity, and when I've listened to your 3-hour lectures so many times the last 30 years. I mean, you can rattle off numbers. A lot of questions I get is these young kids. I'm going to set up my own practice. I was working with Heartland. They're on Dentrix. I see I'm setting up my own office. The management information, there's Dentrix, EagleSoft, SoftDent, PracticeWorks, Open Dental. Are you agnostic to any of those, or any of them better than the others? Do you think anybody can get better data from one of those than the others?
Well, I mean,
and just disclosure, I've been on SoftDent for 20 years, but I'm actually thinking about switching to Open Dental. I haven't pulled the trigger. Are they all the same? I mean,
well, they're not all the same. I mean, the size is different, and I've had a relationship. In the 90s with Patterson Dental. They're a phenomenal company. And I have had a relationship with Henry Schein since 2001 as an educator in their continuing education program called Career Development. I lecture for them. You spoke about Tulsa. It's cute. Interestingly enough, I'm lecturing on January 22nd, I think, in Tulsa. So whoever was out there in Tulsa you were thinking about, and I'm sure it was somebody, I'll be there. But, you look at who's got the best track record, who's got the best, all the resources necessary to come in. And you can't argue with Dentrix. I love the reports. I love the ability to get the data. I love the commitment they've made to technology. The other ones are certainly quality as well. I don't spend my time researching them, but I must say I do have a relationship with Henry Schein, and they're a great company. And I think you need to check them all out and find out what's best for you.
Okay. Kerry, a lot of dentists, it seems like the first thing they think when they're not growing, the magic bullet is, I just got to get more new patients. And you said, I'm sorry, what were the three things you said? New patients was one of them.
The sources of production for the doctor: new patients, continuing care, and unscheduled existing patients of the practice.
Yeah. So okay. So let's go through it. New patients. Number 2 was continuing care.
Yep.
And number 3 was
patients of record who are not in continuing care.
Okay, so let's go through those one by one. A lot of dentists, you can just tell the way they're talking on Dental Town that they think, you know what my problem is, Kerry? I need marketing. I just need more new patients. How often is not enough new patients the issue? And are there any silver bullets? I mean, do you think it's if someone told you I just need a lot more new patients, is that going to be internal marketing, external marketing? Is that external marketing going to be flyers? Is it going to be Facebook? Is it going to talk about that? Talk about the new patients.
Yes, 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 and yes. You know, and having conducted over 22,000 consultations, having worked with over 6,000 practices, and actively having 400 in our queue and more in the pipeline, the number of times I've had to tell the doctors, Howard, to go out and hire a marketing company to get new patients because you need that lifeline filled, or you need to acquire a practice, is fewer than 15 times. Not 15%, 15 times. So if you don't have enough patients of record to begin with, then of course you're going to have to look at developing a marketing strategy. I'll never forget a young man I met probably 12 years ago in the Philadelphia area, graduated from Temple, and hired us, and he wanted to grow, and I asked him how big he wanted to become. He says, I want to hit $5 million in production. And he asked me, how long will it take me to get there? I said, probably 5 years. He goes, well, we made it in 3. And I just saw him the other day. And he was committed to new patient flow. So in the case, if you don't have enough existing patients, you can only get so much blood out of a turnip. You're only going to get so many patients to refer their family and friends. And if you don't have a large enough patient base to begin with, you're going to either have to commit to an external marketing strategy and just think about all the points of distinction that you want to communicate to the community. If you look at you being the greatest dentist since sliced bread, or you're going to offer a free new patient exam and with radiographs. I mean, there are many companies, many practices that do that today. You just need to be clear that in order to get to the number of targeted patients you want to have in continuing care, 1,200, 1,500, 2,000, you're probably going to have to see 3 times that in new patient exams, because not everybody's going to want to make a commitment to a go and steady relationship with you just because they came in the door the first time. So it's not like it was when you started years and years ago and you didn't have to focus on this. You need to figure out as a new dentist, what is my BAM? What's my bare ass minimum amount of cash flow that I need to have, and do anything and everything legal, ethical, and moral to achieve it on a monthly basis. Otherwise, you're going in the hole, and you're already in the hole to begin with. So the new patient flow may be needed. The internal marketing strategies are every point of contact. This is a key phrase we use at Straine. Every point of contact with a patient is an opportunity to delight them or disappoint them. You remember that Jerry Maguire movie where Renee Zellweger said, Jerry, you had me at hello. Do you have your patients at hello? When they come in the door, do you greet them? Do you thank them for walking in the door? Does somebody walking down the hallway see an assistant who turns the other way? That's a negative point of influence. When they could have stopped and said, hi, Howard, welcome to the practice. How are you? When's the last time your hygienist saw a patient who wasn't in continuing care very frequently and said, I want to talk to you about making your next hygiene appointment? The patient starts to balk, and the hygienist has got to own that relationship. And at that moment, she's got to look at you and say, Howard, I just got to tell you something. I love being your hygienist. Do you love being my patient? Howard, to be honest with you, that's the message that turned me around. I never used to commit to continuing care. I'm Kerry Straine, for God's sakes. I fly the second highest number of miles in dentistry, only to you, every year. And when that hygienist, whose name is Kitty, in Davis, California, looked at me and said, Kerry, I want to reschedule you, and I balked, and she said, she moved the monitor away. She just looked at me. It wasn't about technology. It was about love. She said, I love being your hygienist. Do you love being my patient? She goes, I want to take care of you. And if you want to have better relationships with anybody, but more specifically in your practice, there's 2 things you got to put in it, the relationship to have it: energy and empathy. We talk about a culture of yes at Straine. Yes is an acronym for you. E is ethos, your love, your culture. These are things owners have got to spend years developing and sharing with their team. If you're not having huddles, you're not sharing anything. If you're not having staff meetings, what are you sharing? If you're not having training sessions, I mean, my God, read the book Outliers. Malcolm will make it very clear. And last is systems. I mean, heavens, from a marketing system to an onboarding of patient system to an onboarding of employee system to a leadership system to a team talent development system to operating policies to the management systems of planning, doing, and reviewing to your financial systems to your comp plan. All of these come together when a committed leader commits to engagement with everybody on the team, you as a parent and I as a parent, we love our children unconditionally, correct?
Yes.
You take a bullet for them.
Yep.
As an employer, you have all of the responsibilities. You have no rights anymore, just like being a parent. And so when an owner commits to this, internal marketing can begin. Patients feel the love. They feel the message. It's not just insurance assignment or being a network with the lowest paying price. It's that we make eye contact, we smile, we care about them, we go to where they are, and we let them know why we're taking care of them. So internal marketing strategies, I'm going to give you a couple right now that your listeners can take home with them. You ready?
Absolutely.
When a new patient calls in, and you're working so hard to get that new patient call, right? And there's so many marketing companies out there that help you increase that traffic. At the end of that call, when you tell the patient, Howard, we're looking forward to seeing you next Wednesday at 3 o'clock, right?
Right.
Why don't we also finish the statement by saying, and by the way, Howard, is there anyone else in your household who'd like to schedule an appointment with Dr. Farran at this time as well? Sweep, right? Just sweep it. When you have your morning huddle and you look at the routing slip, no matter if it's on Dentrix or EagleSoft or SoftDent or Open Dental, and you look at that routing slip and at the bottom it says, here's all these family members and they're unscheduled. Why aren't we leading our teams to make sure that not only is this patient, but the family members leaving with their next appointment? If you've got somebody who's emergency contact person, you probably have a form that has the emergency contact identified, right, Howard?
Right.
So for me, it'd be my wife, Olivia, right? And her last name is McLeod. We've been married for 23 years. And Olivia is amazing. She runs our company, truly. But if she was my emergency contact and I'm going to go in and see your practice today and it says, Kerry Straine's coming in, I don't know if he's single or married, it should have been documented, but his emergency contact's Olivia McLeod. Before the huddle, your team ought to be doing a search, looking up Olivia Straine, Olivia McLeod, and if she's not a patient of the practice, my friend, we have an opportunity. Somebody's going to take that health history information and say, Kerry, has your health changed? I said, no, I'm going to be 60 next month. I can't believe that, Aaron. And they go,
you look good,
Mr.
buddy.
Straine?
You look good. Not as good as Olivia, but you look good.
I feel good. I'm happy.
Tell Olivia I said hello, by the way.
I
She's
will.
Adorable.
You come over to Carmel, Pebble Beach, spend time with us anytime. Or I'll see you in an airport. But that being said, when somebody is talking to me and they say, we just want to confirm if there have been any health changes in your health. I mean, offices are saying that all day long. Then they should confirm, by the way, is Olivia still your emergency contact in case of an emergency? Well, yeah. And is her phone number still 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7? Yes, it is. Then your team's got to be trained. This is information. These strategies have got to be housed in your policies. This is what we talk about at Farran University. This is where your department leaders train the people within it and are coaches throughout the day so you and your administrator, your manager, can administrate learning and implementing and succeeding. But somebody's going to say, Kerry, I don't know if you know this, but I don't think I've ever had the privilege of meeting Olivia. I was just kind of curious how she connected to you. I said, well, she's my wife. Really? And then you can go on from there and invite her to become a patient of the practice. There's technique that we need to define in the policy and customize the strategy. But Howard, those two ways, phone call sweeping, reappointing all existing family members, including the emergency contact, and making sure, and I'm a nut about this, and any one of my clients
phone call sweeping, what was the second?
Number one was the sweeping of the phone call. Number two was to make sure in the morning huddle that unscheduled family members who are patients of the practice are given an invitation to reschedule for the continuing care. Let's get them back in the cycle, man. And number three would be going after emergency contacts, whether they're a friend, family, or whatever, and letting them know that, we love you so much. We want to make sure everybody that is connected to you or in your family is taken care of as well. Do
you care if I interrupt you with the question? Because my job in these podcasts is to try to guesstimate what thousands of dentists are thinking, by themselves. So I'm the guesstimator, and here's how they think. They think, well, Kerry, my labor's too high. I can't hire people to do all this stuff. I mean, because I hear my labor should be 20% or 22%. My labor is already 25%, and you're telling this is gonna raise my labor bill. What should labor be? And that's how they're thinking. They're thinking that. You've talked to them more than I have.
Well, let's break your question down into two parts. What do we say about the labor, and then what would their labor be? Remind me to come back to that last question. Number one, when you look at
because labor is their highest cost. I mean,
well, no doubt about it, and it's the least tended to investment. Imagine that you have a new landscaping after the snowstorms of the winter and you put $40,000 in your yard and don't hire a landscaper to take care of it. What's going to happen to the yard? Weeds, right? It's
Right.
going to die out. Same thing happens with team members. They're only a reflection of the energy given to them by the owner.
That's a profound quote. I'm gonna quote you on that. Write me up a meme for Kerry's picture. Labor is your, would you say labor is your number one cost and least invested in dentistry? And
Correct. If it's the labor, what your team's doing is a direct reflection of the energy of the owner, the energy and engagement of the owner. If I have an owner who shows up late for work, ducks out for lunch, leaves early at the end of the day, doesn't spend any time, and thinks somebody else is going to tend to their family, it's a very unique practice that can accomplish that. And if I see one out there, I'd like to talk with that owner and I'd like to look at the facts. You can have your own opinion, but you can't have your own facts. You've heard that one before. So labor as a percentage. What should your percentage be? The first thing we have to do is assess what's your production going to be for the year, Howard. So the first thing I have to do is look at last year, 2015, and I have to assess what was your average hourly or daily production for any given month. And I always use the denomination of a month, not a week. It's too narrow of a period. So I'm going to set my production goals. I'm going to set my collection percentage. And I'm going to know how many days you're going to work and how many days my hygienists are going to work. And from there, I can forecast out what 2016 is going to be if we achieve our production goal. And you've heard of the acronym SMART. Our goals need to be specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and timely. So I just can't arbitrarily set a number as a goal.
SMART is S is specific, M is what?
Measurable, attainable, realistic, and timely.
By the way, dude, I've listened to your 3-hour lecture so many times, and you've never graced. I got 205,000 dentists on Dentaltown. I put up 350 courses. They've been viewed over 500,000 times. When are you going to give me a digital copy to put that on Dentaltown so they can be listening? Because you mostly lecture in the U.S. and Canada, and 20% of my audience is in Asia, Africa, and Latin America. They need. I want to digitize you.
Well, let's make that a plan by the end of January.
Okay, I'm Howard at dentaltown.com. We have another Howard that runs our CEs. He's Howard Goldstein, so he's Hogo at Dentaltown. But man, I mean, I can remember listening to you in '87 and just loving it. And then I think I listened to you in '87, '91, '93. I mean, you're a great guy. You need to digitize.
Last time was down in San Diego.
Is that right?
Yeah, we were at some retreat together, a big outing on the marina a couple of years ago, and you stayed in the back of the room. You were incredible. But back to this labor percentage. Once I know what your production is going to be, then that becomes my denominator. If I look back over 2015, and with this existing staff, I have some months where you've averaged $6,000 a day versus other months where it's $2,000 a day. Imagine what could happen if every month you averaged what was your peak performance, $6,000 a day. And if we put in place that as a vision and strategies to make sure we fill the body count in the schedule, we're going to end up with a result that gets us closer to that vision than ever before. So before I commit to a set of goals and strategies for 2016, I need to know what your production goals are going to be, and that's got to be accurately assessed, not just guessing, pin the tail on the donkey. That doesn't cut it. There's a science to this, and I know how to do it. What is your collection rate? Then I can apply your overhead. I look at all your operating expenses, and I get to profit before debt service and doctor comp. And then I can understand whether or not you've got a model that you can economically commit to. Too many dental practice owners are committing to the future without knowing what that model is going to provide for them. And as I talk to a dentist, there's two things I want to know for 2016, Howard. How many hours do you want to work, and how much money do you need to make? And I'm not saying gross production. I mean, what does your net profit need to be? What do you need to live on? How much do you need to put the kids through college? How much do you need to fund for retirement? What about life insurance, disability, long-term care? What do your working capital reserves have to be? And how much are you going to pay in taxes? If we don't have that determined before we commit to a plan, we're going in the wrong direction. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, Kerry, I want to ask you another question. I mean, obviously you got a Bachelor in Science and Accounting, and you're a numbers man. You're a totally numbers man. But I always coined you as a guy who understood the workings of the human mind. I mean, you understand how a monkey thinks. And dentists, physicians, and lawyers always attract 400-pound gorillas. 400-pound gorillas are control freaks and don't like to delegate. So my question to you is, in your 30 years of doing this, does the dentist doing all this himself does he or she seem to do better, or do you like the one who delegates to an office manager? I see the AADOM, the American Academy of Dental Offices Managers. In your 30 years experience, there's people who delegate and really build up a strong office manager to do everything. And is it better if I'm listening to you in the car and say, hell, I'm just going to have my office manager call Kerry, and I'm going to let you guys do this because what I want to do is I want to get a microscope and find every MB2 in a molar. I don't understand this shit. I'm not interested in it. I just want to delegate it. Or does this dentist, or is that a cop out and this dentist needs to own it?
Well, first of all, the American Academy of Dental Office Managers is a great organization, and they're committed to educating people so that they can become contributors to the vision, the mission, the strategy, and the culture of a practice. That being said, an owner cannot abdicate what they don't know by definition. So it's up to the business owner, whether it's the president of the company, chairman of the board of directors, the president, CEO, to understand what is our vision, what is our mission, what are our strategies for this year. And that owner's got to sign off on it, whether they're hiring an office manager to do the job or it's a smaller practice where they just have 3 department leaders, or we call them department facilitators. In my seminars, and I recently spoke in Sacramento and Dallas and San Antonio, just all over the place, all over the East Coast. When I talk to office managers, I ask them, what is it you're managing? And you've heard about a business should be systems driven versus people driven. How many times you heard that, Howard?
Yep.
In dentistry, without a vision, with strategies that are documented in operating policies, and these are tangible items, without a management system to make people fit, knowledgeable for the position, leading them, and then coaching them with performance management strategies, we're never going to achieve these numbers we calculate. Numbers are just numbers. What is our dream? And if it's not something that the owner spent time defining, they can't expect that office manager to make sure it's executed. So at my most recent, one of my most recent seminars I gave a couple of months ago in Northern California, there's probably 150 office managers in the room. I asked everybody who's an office manager stand up. They all stood up. I said, how many of you have an end of month planning meeting with your doctor to make sure that you know what's coming up in the future and that the performance we've achieved over the last month and year to date is on track? 80% of them sat down. 20% said yes. I said, everybody stand up again. How many of you have written operating policies, which are the curriculum of what we want people to do? The what in support of the why, the mission, to accomplish the vision. And I said, how many of you have written operating policies? Stand up if you have written operating policies that have been updated to reflect changes in technology, strategy, the Dental Practice Act, et cetera, new goals. How many of you have that? And again, Howard, out of about whatever the audience was, maybe 15 people stood up. Then I said to myself, and I said to them, my God, what are you managing? All you're doing all day is putting out fires. God bless them. They're the firemen. They're just putting out fires all day long, and they're doing the best they can. So that owner cannot blame them for putting forth 100% effort, as they're doing, if the owner hasn't given them the direction and the clarity, the coaching, and the positive reinforcement or redirection when they look at the results to say, my God, are we not accomplishing this because people aren't doing it, or was it a bad strategy? You know, I have 26 employees. And when it comes to the goals of my organization, my employees are not responsible for the attainment of my goals. You want to know why?
Why?
They didn't choose the strategy. What they're responsible for is implementing strategy, performing the tasks, the behaviors associated with all of my policies. What am I responsible for? Training them. They're amazing people. I am so blessed to have such a great team at Straine Consulting. I have my consultants. They're supported by their coaches. Then we have our onboarding team, our admin team, we have our accounting department, and then we have our director of operations. I have a director of training. Everybody puts forth phenomenal effort. They're resilient, they're optimistic, they're willing to do what I guide them to do. That's what I can hold them accountable to doing. Whether that gets us to the goal, who knows? That's subject to my design, correct?
Mm-hmm.
They show up and they put on they're ready to play every day. I have an amazing team. And I hope the listeners get that concept that the employee who's measured by the attainment of goal versus the performance of the policies may do whatever's necessary to attain the goal, even though it may be out of alignment with the owner's philosophy. That
And
can
I just want to say one thing from my word. I've known this dude for since 1987. He's just a good guy. I mean, you're just an adorable teddy bear. I mean, you're adorable. I saw so many dentists. There's a thread about New Year's resolutions, Kerry. So I want you to address this. You tell me if I'm seeing this wrong, but when you talked about silver bullets, a lot of them think I'm going to solve all my problems by blitzkrieg marketing, and I'm just going to get a gazillion new patients. That's going to solve my problems. The second silver bullet I want you to address, and that is my New Year's resolution in 2016. I know I'm going to break out if I buy a big shiny toy like a CAD cam, a laser, a CBCT, or I'm going to go to the Scottsdale Center and learn how to restore the worn dentation, or go to the Pankey Institute, or I'm going to learn how to place implants. I'm going to sign up. I'm going to fix my problems by starting to do something new. And it's my impression that if I go back over my 28 years and I look at all the dentists who are collecting $1 million and taking home $350, all they do is restorative dentistry. They don't place implants. They don't even do molar endo. They don't do ortho. They don't do anything. They just check hygiene and do fillings and crowns, and they're millionaires. But
right.
It seems like the impression on Dental Town and in the media is that, oh no, the successful ones are milling their own crowns. They're doing sinus lifts. They're placing dills. They're retreating failed root canals. They are just amazing clinicians. So again, my question to you specifically, I've been flat for a decade. I'm going to solve all my problems by buying a shiny new fire truck and learn how to put out a different kind of fire. True or false?
Maybe. But it's really not going to happen. I've seen, going back into the 80s when the intraoral camera first came out, what were they, $35,000?
They were $30,000 as a CAD
God
cam.
almighty. I can't tell you how many of them
What was that thing called? It was from Patterson.
Reveal Welch Allen.
No, that was the second lower cost version. The first one
A client
was
of
the
mine spent $150,000 to equip 6 operatories in Yuba City, California.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. But these tools, great innovations, that's what they are. They're great innovations. CAD CAM technology. I can't tell you how many people I meet, probably 90% of them that buy the intraoral cameras, the lasers, the CAD CAM technology, put computers in every room. Hire
That's me.
some,
I have every
some flash in the pan marketing company, and they never use it.
Oh, okay.
I mean, Howard, I belong to 4 gyms. At some point in time, you got to go. And I'm going to run this afternoon. I've got a half marathon I'm going to run in November, Howard. I want you to come to Big Sur and do it with me.
Where's it at?
Big Sur, California, Monterey, November 13th.
Oh my God, Monterey. That's got to be the prettiest spot in America.
You know, my daughter-in-law and daughter came out this November to run the half marathon, and my wife, having never run one, registers. And she ran it right with them on Sunday. I didn't necessarily want to join in, but as I said before, all these new innovations, I belong to 4 gyms. At some point in time, if you want to get healthy, you got to go. So that being said, why is that your laser sitting in the corner, your intraoral camera sitting over the corner? Why is your software, whether it's Dentrix, Eaglesoft, doesn't matter, why is it that you're only using it for scheduling and billing and collection instead of a management tool? It's because you haven't incorporated the use of this tool, because that's what they are, into your policies to describe to your team member for their position how they're to use it, and so that they're trained on it, number one. So now they're fit because you've trained them on it. And number two, you're not leading them in the morning huddle to be aware of how to apply it. And when they do, number three, you haven't given them immediate positive reinforcement. I mean, there's 3 ways to get people to do more of what you want. Number one is money. Everybody's throwing money at people, reward. But the problem with money is that's really not a motivator. It's not something that is going to create satisfaction. It's part of the hygiene of the relationship between you and your employees. You got to have a certain pay package. You got to have coffee in the Keurig machine. You got to have the room stocked with supplies, and you've got to cover vacation, sick pay, and the government's going to make us cover health care soon, right? These are just it's like jacks are better to get in the game. Money is part of it, but what's going to inspire them is not the reward. It's the positive reinforcement. And Howard, there's 3 ways to give positive reinforcement, and they all begin with A: attention, approval, and appreciation. So you've got that hygienist who's never used an intraoral camera. You tell them in the
Attention,
huddle,
approval, and what?
attention, approval, and appreciation.
And appreciation.
Yeah, the third way to get people to
And unless it's a woman, then you got to add shoes for number 4.
well, we don't want to go there. That being said, in the morning huddle, when you tell your hygienist, listen, when I walk in, I want a photograph of the post probing bleeding, or if they don't bleed. I want that information up on the monitor. I want to see bloody gums, or I want to see healthy gums. Either one, I'm going to talk to the patient about our continuing care program. Number 2, there's a crown on number 3 that we've talked about. Take a PA of it, get a photograph of it. And number 3, anything else you want to talk about, you put up on the monitor. So that's how you set the stage. The huddle is an antecedent. It's setting the stage for the behavior to occur.
And what % of the dental offices do you think have a morning huddle? Because I want this guy driving to work. I want her.
15%.
Yeah. So what would you say? You're talking to thousands of dentists, and 85% of them don't have a morning huddle. What would you tell them?
Don't have an expectation of your team to do anything different. Manage your expectations. Don't get angry. Be grateful that they're at least showing up. But for God's sakes, you can't expect them to be fired up and excited unless you've cast a vision of what we're going to be fired up and excited about.
What % of the NFL teams have a morning huddle?
Well, probably a high percentage. I mean, think about it. If we're not helping the team members understand what our promise is all about, how are we going to get them to be ignited with passion about caring for people? Howard, when I ask people what they do for a living, most of them will either say, well, I'm an administrator, I'm a hygienist, or I'm an assistant. And this gets into talking about engagement. And back in 2010, Gallup did a whole study on engagement in the workforce. Guess what percentage of American employees are engaged with the employer's vision and mission? 13%. You have people waiting to be led, waiting to be inspired, waiting to make their job a career instead of a paycheck. When a NASA janitor was asked what he did for a living, you know what his response was?
What?
I help put people on the moon. Now that's an engaged team member. So when I'm talking to team members of dentists, I know the leader is leading. When I ask them what they do, they say, we help people have healthier and happier lives. That's when you're getting to the heart of it. That's when people are passionate, because you represent what we should be passionate about, owner. And without it, well, you got one of 2 choices. Either learn about it and start to implement it and watch what emerges around you as something similar, or do nothing different. And then what's going to happen is your overhead percentage for labor will rise, because the revenue will never rise, but the cost to hiring people is going to rise. So back to that percentage again, there's no standard percentage. I've heard consultants tell me wages should be 20%. Wages should be this. It all depends on what your revenue is going to be. I can take 2 equally staffed practices. For example, I have a client with CAD/CAM technology. We didn't hire an associate until he couldn't keep up with the exams. We got him to 4 hygienists. You can get to managing 3 to 4 hygienists a day if you move out of a prophy palace, Howard, where everybody's a prophy. Then you've got a certain percentage of your people, of your patients, in perio maintenance, and you minimize the number of periodic exams every day, number 1. And number 2, if your periodic exams are taking more than 5, 6, 7 minutes, then you didn't instruct your hygienist on what data to gather to have up on the monitor, so when you walk in, you can look at the monitor and say, wow, she got all that data up for me. You could look at the hygienist and say, hygienist, my God, it looks like you two have had quite a conversation. You say, hello, Freddie, to the patient. Say, hygienist, tell me, what is it you two have been talking about? And let her talk. Let her show it. And when she gets done with it, you look at the patient and you say, gosh, isn't she incredible? I don't know if you know this, but I am so fortunate to have the greatest team on earth. And, with the work she's doing, it just enables me to ask you one question, patient. What do you think about that? Guy says, I'm in. Case acceptance. My clients that are highly producing, where their average daily production is north of $15,000 a day, are not doing major full mouth restorations, Howard. They're doing a lot of single unit dentistry. And now, with the patient flow, with the committed team, with using assistance to the extent we can, legally in that state, whether there's dentist assistants that can place fillings or they're just making and seating temporaries or permanent crowns. Whatever the laws are, you have to adhere to them. But I can now manage the flow with an owner who's grown a team. I mean, honestly, if you live in a state where a hygienist can give anesthesia, Howard, you can cut 2 crowns a day for having one hygienist give all your anesthesia. So there's a lot of ways to, as my granddad said, a lot of ways to skin that cat. We just got to figure out where you want to go, what you believe in, what you're comfortable with. And thankfully, Howard, I've never met an industry where I've seen it so rich with existing patients of record who get so many things for free that we allow go neglected annually because we have unclaimed benefits because the patients didn't get the message of how that practice wanted to take care of them.
Okay, I want to ask you another specific question. In your 30 years experience, do you see, okay, so you're talking about, silver bullets, new patients, then continuing care, then who's not on continuing care, getting on continuing care. But as far as the clinical dentistry, true or false, yes or no, do you, in your 33 decades at this, do you think dentists who have a treatment plan presenter presenting the treatment do more clinical dentistry per patient as opposed to the dentist presenting the treatment plan to the patient himself?
Yeah, I do. Once the doctors developed the treatment plan and outlined it to the patient clinically, and they've done a very thorough job explaining all the problems that exist and what the solutions are, the next team member should be the one to make the financial arrangements and get the appointment scheduled.
Is that lady just presenting the finance? Is the treatment plan coordinator, is she presenting the finance, or is she actually also explaining the clinical dentistry?
I think she certainly needs to be equipped to answer any questions that come up after the doctors explained the treatment plan. But certainly, I don't expect her to explain the science behind it like the doctor would. And again, think about it. I mean, even my clients that are lecturers and cosmetic dental lecturers will tell you the majority of their production is single tooth dentistry. The number of patients that are doing full mouth constructions just isn't there like it was before 2008. People don't have the equities in their home to have the lines of credit. They can't borrow on this or that. They're finally turning older. They're getting in their late 50s. They're realizing, my God, I've got to start putting away some money for retirement. So there's a lot of single tooth dentistry. But whether it's an implant, whether it's it's crown and bridge, whether it's fillings, whatever it is, that person should be able to present it. But again, let's get back to it. What is a patient of record? A patient of record is someone who's had a comprehensive exam, right, Howard? Comprehensive exam and been presented with a comprehensive treatment plan. So let's back up. What's a comprehensive exam include? Full set of films, right?
Right.
Charting of all missing teeth, all existing restorations, and a full or partial period charting, Howard?
Full.
Okay, well, why isn't that done? I've looked at a lot of charts, and I think the listeners of this need to ask themselves, are we blocking and tackling with that? That's number one. Because once you gather the information, now you can give an informed opinion. Soft tissue to hard tissue, function, occlusion, the whole thing.
Kerry, come on, dude. These homies, 90% of them are doing first appointment prophies. They come in, the hygienist snaps bite wings, and they go in there and start doing the cleaning.
You're reaping what you sow, because until you change the way you approach your relationship with your patient and the way you want to take care of them, you're going to continue to get what you get. So a new patient goes through the comprehensive exam, but a patient of record is someone who's had a comprehensive exam and been presented with a comprehensive treatment plan. That doesn't mean they're going to say yes or no to all of it at this time, and quite frankly, I don't think most of them can say yes to much of it at all. If you look at the statistics of the average American household's ability to add money to their credit card balance, they're stuck. But at least you've onboarded them accurately, and you at least let them know that they can make the determination at the pace that they want to move forward. It's up to them, but you're going to have a higher probability of getting that treatment plan completed if you get them into the continuing care program. Not only is it good for you, but it should be much healthier for them in the long run, and that's going to mean something to your patients.
So specifically, new patient, first visit, cleanings, yes or no?
Not until there's been an exam done.
A new patient comprehensive exam.
What kind of cleaning would you do?
I know.
I mean, it would be like back when I had my accounting firm, it'd be like you giving me your general ledger and me preparing a tax return without reconciling the bank accounts and all the balance sheet accounts. I mean, really, what is your income statement but a change in the balance sheet from the beginning to the end of the period? If you have no assets, liabilities, and equity at the beginning of the period, and at the end of the year you got 200 grand in cash and you didn't put up any money, you must have had a profit of 200 grand. I mean, there's science to this, and there's science to that relationship. And if you start promoting cleanings first without a comprehensive exam, it's no wonder your patients think that, there wasn't a big commitment to get entered, and you're really confusing them. You're confusing them. And I would take a step back and ask, how's it working for you now? Look at how many patients you've seen in practice in the last 2 years. What's your hit rate? How many did you get to make it into continuing care? Here's another great stat, Howard. Let's say during the course of the year you saw 500 patients, right? That'd be 2,000 quads, right? 4 quads a patient. Go look at how many SRPs you did last year. Oh, we had 2,000 quads and we did 80. Oh my God, there's something missed in the new patient exam. It's not missed in the periodic oral evaluation. It's missed at the get-go. And until you get clear clinically, I can't help you administratively.
And this is Dentistry Uncensored, so I'm going to get crass and crude. How much is Straine Consulting? My homies listening, if they commit to you, how much is it? Is it a year contract? Is it a monthly fee? What's the nut on this?
Our relationship is a month-to-month relationship with all of our practices with a 30-day cancellation provision. So all of our clients go through the first phase called initial services, where we discover what they want, discover what they've got. Besides looking at the numbers, we want to find out the opinions of the team members as well. What are their goals? What are they looking for from this career experience? We want to know what the owner's personal budget requirements are. So we have a very comprehensive analysis of the patient base, the facility, the economics, the management systems, the policies, and team development. Then a consultant comes on site for 2.5 days. Consultant flies in day one. They're going to have dinner with you, Dr. Farran. They're going to get to know you. They've got to get to know you. They've got to review the comprehensive practice analysis, which is a huge 3-ring binder of stuff. It's information about you. Next day is a full day in the office. They're going to observe all morning, see how you start the day, see how you lead your team, see how they respond to you. These team members are a bit nervous, Howard. All of a sudden, you're bringing in a consultant. It'd be like me going home tonight and seeing Olivia, and she looks at me at the front door and she goes, honey, guess what I signed us up for tonight? I go, what? She goes, marriage counseling. What's the connotation? What an owner has to say to the team is, I've hired this group because I want to go to the next level. And I don't know how to get there, and I want your support to help me get there. So on that first full day, we're observing in the morning. Then afternoon, we're having a team planning session around the vision, the mission, our communication styles and preferences, the practice's historical performance. And we want the employees to feel, at the end of that 4-hour first meeting, we want them to feel safe. Sounds like Abraham Maslow, right? Safety, belonging, and mattering. If we don't have them feel safe, that they belong to this team and that they matter in accomplishing the mission and vision, then we're never going to be able to access the executive function of their brain and get them to contribute at their highest level because they're just afraid. That night, we have a goal-setting conference with a client. We set all the benchmarks for the next year, and we design the management system of how they should lead and coach their team and monitor, because we're going to put that into play on the last day with a 4-hour team meeting again. Our initial fee to put that together is $7,950, very affordable. Then on a month-to-month basis, after that, we're involved with what we call our continuing services. Our continuing services are the highest level of ongoing customization, consulting, coaching, and support. But on a daily basis, our clients and their teams have unlimited telephone, email, and text access to it. Call me. I've already been on the phone for the last 3 or 4 hours before I talk to you with clients all over the country. We're here to be accessible. We are your chief strategy officer. In many cases, we're your virtual chief operations officer. On a daily basis, that management system we designed, we're monitoring the implementation. On a weekly basis, we have training for 30 minutes with who? Your department leaders, your department facilitators, so they can take it to the team. Checking your end-of-week performance and what occurred at your staff meeting, end-of-month review, so if your department leaders and you can see the future accurately for the next 7 months. We're constantly looking at the horizons, not just historically. That's not a horizon, that's sunset. You can't change the past. But we're looking at what's coming up today and tomorrow, what's coming up the next 4 weeks, what's coming up the next 7 months, to identify when you can capitalize on all the great things you've accomplished so you can take the next step and increase your patient flow, production, collections, profitability and practice value and accomplish the practice of your dreams. So a client works with us on a month-to-month basis until they feel like they're capable of doing it on their own. And we do go back on site for a day every 6 months. But with the advent of internet access, we can access software all the time. We're working on a data sweeping program we hope to have out by April 1 with our partners there. So we can bring 30 years of proven strategy of how to lead a team to grow to their potential and be in control of their future instead of being a victim of their ignorance. That's what we want to bring to the marketplace. So we do that all for $79.50 up front, and then month to month, $1,995, cancelable with 30 days notice. It's the most customizable suite of services available in the market, most comprehensive for management system policy, training, monitoring, and support, with the most fair fee and the least amount of contractual invasiveness. And I learned a long time ago, if you can offer the best services for the most affordable solution with the least amount of contractual invasiveness, you're going to stay in the game. And we're blessed to have been in the game. And we're going to be in the game for another 20 years at the very least.
Well, we're 6 minutes in overtime, but I would just want you to, one overtime question, my observation is that the problem with dental consultants, and you're talking about 7,500 down, $2,000 a month, is all the people who are rich. We always are using consultants. Jerome Smith probably has the greatest office I've ever seen. He has a full consultant every year. Everybody who's rich always uses consultants because when they're looking at that $2,000 a month, they know in our brain there's no way you won't take home more money. It's an absolute return on investment. And then the 80% of the dentists who you would be a miracle for, they'll never do a consultant and they'll always try to fix themselves. So my question is, do you believe that everybody that needs consultants the most never use them, and everybody who's rich already is the one who most all your clients are anyway?
That's the case in over 98% of
I know. So
most of our new clients are doing well over $1 million. Most of our clients that we start with are doing well over $1 million when we meet them. And in some cases, when you're working, coming in over the next 2 weeks, I have clients with over 40 practices, one with over 20 practices, one with 6 locations. I have one group coming in with 50 million just that they want to invest in the dental market. And they're trying to figure out how to do it. These are people that really want to own a business that's going to have traction for the next 20, 30 years. And dentistry is in a perfect position. Baby boomers, millennials, they've each got their own philosophies. It's not a very expensive value proposition. And if you're educating the patients about all that's going on clinically within them and your role in their lives, these people want a solution for health and a quality of life. And the dentist is the gatekeeper for that. And when a dentist understands that, they're going to be committed to leading and growing leaders around them to be able to get the endorsement of a qualified patient. And by the way, everybody goes, my God, you must have all of your clients must be out of network. That's not the case. Most of my clients are in network. Most of my clients, they have missed appointments. They're just solving them differently. And what we want to do, Howard, is take this bulk of patients each one of your listeners has, get them into continuing care. And if we're collecting and producing and collecting at the desired level, we just want to identify what's the normal attrition going to be annually. Because whatever that is, we're going to need that for new patient flow to fill in the schedule. If we want to grow, we'll develop a strategy around there. I just want to know, what do your listeners want? I want to see what they've got, and I'm going to give them a 2 or 3 step plan that they can take and implement without the burden of having to think they're going to be promoted to be a Straine client. We'd love to help those that want to put a plan in place. But if all they want is to test the waters and find out what do I have and what should I be looking at, I think we're a very credible source due to the number of clients we've had a chance to work with.
Well, if you ever figure out a way, and see, maybe that's another reason you should do the online CE program, because my beef with consultants is we're always preaching to the choir. We're always preaching. You just said 98% of your clients already do $1 million a year. And I'm out here in Phoenix where every year 1, 2, or 3 dentists actually kill themselves in the metro. And every dentist who you would be Moses walking in with the 10 commandments is going to save money and not use you. And then everybody who can buy a shiny new Lexus is the one using you already. So if you ever figure out how to get the ones who need you the most to call you, let me know how you did that.
We always say, my dad always said to me, Kerry, he says, where there's a will, there's a way. You ever heard that, Howard?
Yeah.
Then Dad used to say, well, Kerry, there's a way. The question is there a will? So you're either motivated to accomplish more gain or get out of pain. And when somebody gets sick and tired of being sick and tired, they're going to commit to a strategy. In the short term, if all you want to do is kind of talk about it, we're here to help you. Call us, 800-568-7200. We're just a phone call away. Look me up on straine.com, as Howard said. Go to our Facebook page. Call the dentist whose pictures are on my Facebook page and say, is this real?
You've already talked to 20. You've already talked to 20,000. So all you got to do is go call the guy across the street. He's probably one of your clients. Minutes over. I just want to tell you seriously, personally, thank you for all you've done for me personally over the years. You were a big inspiration in helping me in the early days. You even come to my front room, my office. Thank you for all that you've done for dentistry, dude. You're a legend, and I just am just humbled that you spent an hour with me this morning.
Howard, you're very welcome. It's a true pleasure. You've been a friend and a colleague for many years. And as I said to you before, and I'll say it again, you're such a great individual to have pioneered the strategies to educate so many through your articles, through your magazines, through your seminars. I'm grateful to be able to spend the hour with you, and I look forward to taking on a few more projects with you soon.
Well, I'm going to hold your feet to that fire. I want the straight. It's about a 3-hour lecture. I mean, you just rant for 3 hours, and when you're done, it's just brain overload. It's so awesome. I want it digitized because Kerry, you're never going to lecture in Kathmandu, and I got friends over there that want to hear you.
Well, we do get to Canada, and but most of our work is in the United States. We have clients in about, I think, actively 46 states, anywhere from startup to practices to large MSOs. And we've worked with most all of them to some degree. But that's about what we want to do for you.
All right, buddy.
Thanks,
Tell
Howard.
I said hello.
I will. You have a great day.